Cadet Anya Petrova sat quietly at her station aboard Outpost Salix, a lone speck of humanity on the outer edge of contested galactic space. She sipped jasmine tea from a dainty porcelain cup, perfectly still, watching sensor readings dance across the hollow interface. Her other hand rested lightly in her lap, as if the notion of incoming threats were a polite afterthought, not something requiring urgency. She had placed a small knitted doily under the cup, patterned with sunflowers, because she found that even the bleakest command modules benefited from a little charm. Outside the reinforced viewport, the stars shimmered with indifferent beauty. Somewhere beyond them, political boundaries were dissolving, empires expanding, teeth bared behind treaties and smiles. Anya adjusted her posture, straightened her uniform jacket, and whispered a Russian proverb under her breath, one about wolves and silk. Then she smiled. Always smile. The alert chimed once. Quiet. Subtle. She didn't look up. Unidentified object approaching. Velocity nominal. Cloak signature partially distorted. The outpost's AI Felix spoke in an overly calm voice that Anya had programmed herself. British accent. Wistful. Like an old librarian remembering the time humans discovered caffeine. Track vector. Plot intercept course. T first, she murmured. Of course, Miss Petrova. Threat assessment. She finally turned her head, meeting the AI's hollow projected eye. Presumptive. Outside, space rippled. The ship decloaked slowly, as if savoring the reveal, a predator slipping out of camouflage to show off its teeth. It was sleek and needle-like, dark purple hull glinting with the eerie sheen of Zarnatech alloys. The insignia of the galactic empire of Drazari pulsed at the prow, its tentacles wrapping a scorched planet in eternal conquest. Modest by their standards, maybe a diplomatic interceptor. Or maybe not. Felix blinked. They're hailing us. Message header, level 6. Diplomatic tone, badly translated. There's an emoji. Don't judge. Some of us learned intergalactic diplomacy via memes, she replied, rising with grace. She walked to the comms console and tapped it open with a single finger. Her expression was warm, approachable, the kind that inspired grandmothers and interrogators alike to lean in. A hologram formed, flickering slightly. The alien stood tall, cloaked in sleek imperial black, its eye stalks swiveling independently. Commander Vortenzel, Drazari Special Acquisitions Unit, known for surgical extractions and a rather condescending sense of humor about primitive species. Anya knew this. She knew a great deal more than she should. Human cadet, you will power down your station. For your safety, Vorten declared with theatrical flair. His translator lagged half a second, adding unintended comedy. You have been selected for questioning. Anya tilted her head. Is that what you call kidnapping now? We prefer the term strategic human resource extraction. She gave a light, bemused laugh. You must be from HR. Vorten shifted slightly. His second eyelid twitched. He didn't expect humor. Most didn't. Not here. Not from a single cadet alone at a fringe outpost with no weapons above Class 3. This facility will be boarded. Resist, and we will be less than gentle. That sounds exhausting for both of us, Anya replied, smiling again. Would you like tea before or after your illegal entry? The signal cut abruptly. Shields, she asked Felix, already walking back to the table. Overridden. How rude. The docking bay rattled. Magnetic clamps latched with a sound like a dragon clearing its throat. Then the hiss of atmosphere exchange. Then footsteps. 3 soldiers entered first, armor humming with electric containment fields. A 4th followed, taller, thinner, wearing ceremonial shoulder spikes, and that imperial smirk that made most Earth ambassadors fantasize about gravity malfunctions. Behind him came a floating sensor drone that blinked violet in all directions. Anya stood with hands folded, her teacup resting once more on its doily. Cadet Anya Petrova, you are now under protective detainment per Drazari Galactic Protocol 7.4b. The leader raised a translator device that looked suspiciously like a handheld toaster with antennae. We mean you no harm. Of course not, she replied sweetly. You just brought 6 guns, power dampeners, and a drone equipped with neural disruptors to protect me. One of the soldiers coughed nervously. The leader motioned toward her. We'll be transporting you to our vessel. She glanced at her watch. Pity. My tea's still warm. They moved in. She didn't resist. She didn't need to. She tilted her head at the sensor drone as it scanned her. Careful, she whispered to it in near-perfect Rosari. That scanner reads intent. Mine might upset your calibrations. The drone beeped, then sputtered, then twitched and fell to the floor with a fried spark. The lead soldier froze. What did she just say? Anya turned toward him. Her eyes sparkled, calm and clear. I'm simply a cadet, Sergeant. Please continue. They escorted her aboard the Imperial vessel. She walked between them like a guest on a garden tour, nodding at passing crew, observing their formations and armor seams. Every flick of her eyes registered details: ventilation ports, power relay junctions, emergency signage. By the time she reached the holding chamber, she had memorized every security code flashed in passing. The cell was clean. It smelled like sterile authority. She sat on the bench, knees together, back straight, hands folded. A silent menace in Sunday school posture. Commander Vorton entered, flanked by 2 officers with ceremonial halberds. Theatrics again. Always so dramatic, these Empire types. The lights dimmed slightly, presumably for effect. You are not what you seem, he said. That's hurtful. I worked hard on this look. We know you're not just a cadet. I am a cadet, she replied truthfully. My file is available on every shared galactic index. 2nd year. Minor in tactical analytics. Honors in protocol mediation. And yet we intercepted a code transmission that referred to you as Baba Yaga. Anya blinked slowly. Her smile didn't falter. Oh dear. You must have tapped into someone's folktale archive. The other officer leaned closer. What does it mean? Russian legend, she said, voice low. The monster who lives in a walking house. Eats those who don't knock politely. The translator lagged again. The word eats played twice. Vorton crossed his arms. We have over a dozen agents analyzing your psychological profile. Your niceness is statistically abnormal. Kindness isn't statistical. It's tactical. That gave them pause. She leaned forward slightly. Would you like to continue pretending I'm helpless? It's been fun. Restrain her, Vorton snapped. The guards moved in. Her hands were already behind her back. And yet no one moved. The guards hesitated, staring at each other. Something in the air. Something cold. One reached for her arm. She looked up, eyes now absent of light or laughter. Touch me again, and I will wear your memory like a scarf. He stepped back. I thought you weren't dangerous, Vorton said, voice thinner now. I thought you were smarter, she replied. And yet here we are. He stiffened. We control this ship, this galaxy. Your kind is quaint. Let me tell you a secret, she said, standing now, very slowly. Humanity plays dumb. We let you underestimate us. It's adorable, really. Like watching children run with scissors. Vorton gestured frantically to the control panel. Lock her down. The system chirped once, then powered off. The lights flickered. On every screen, a single image appeared. Her smiling face. Hello again, said her recorded voice, cheerful as a morning weather report. You've made an error. You thought I was alone. You thought this was an outpost. It was the bait. The ship lurched. Emergency override. Who authorized? She stepped closer to him, close enough to whisper. You did. When you brought me here. You're inside the trap now. His expression collapsed inward. Anya smoothed her jacket, as calm as if preparing for a recital. She stepped back, smiled at the room, and said brightly, Please remain seated during the collapse of your arrogance. As alarms blared and the crew began shouting, she sat down again, crossed her legs, and lifted a small, slightly cracked biscuit from her pocket. Felix, she said aloud. A flicker of hollow light appeared in the air beside her. Yes, Miss Petrova? Tea, if you would. I believe we have a long day ahead. Right away, ma'am. As the lights dimmed and emergency klaxons blared like angry ghosts, she took a bite of her biscuit, closed her eyes, and whispered one more Russian proverb. It's not the loud wolf you fear. It's the one already in your house. Then she smiled. Always smile. The flagship Dominator's pride had once been a symbol of imperial engineering, a marvel of Drazari superiority, with gravity-threaded corridors, neural-linked command decks, and hull plating strong enough to scrape solar flares off its sides like lint. It now trembled, just slightly, with the unease of a predator who has bitten something it doesn't understand. Commander Vortenzel stood before the central command dais, posture tight, fingers laced behind his back. The light from the tactical display bathed his scales in an anemic blue, giving him the sickly glow of someone trying very hard not to appear concerned. Around him, his senior staff attempted the impossible, pretending everything was still under control. She remains in her cell, said Tactical Overseer Gielwire, a three-limbed Urog with the personality of wet cardboard and the imagination to match. But all attempts to scan her neural patterns fail. The readings are erratic. Erratic. Vorten turned to him. Elaborate. Like static wrapped in patterns. Some kind of false loop encryption, possibly biochemical. Or poetry. It's unclear. She's a cadet, Vorten said flatly. You don't need a PhD in xenoneurology to read a cadet's thoughts. Not this one, Gielwire muttered. She doesn't think like prey. Vorten spun away from the display, pacing. He hated pacing. It implied doubt. But something about the girl made him itch. Her stillness. Her calm. The unnerving way she never blinked too often or too little. She smiled as if she'd been born for diplomacy and had grown bored of it decades ago. The bridge doors slid open with a courteous chime, and Ensign Thruck stepped in, nearly tripping over his own feet. He was young, six-armed, and nervous by both species and temperament. He carried a tray awkwardly, some version of food from the prisoner's requested list. Tea, and something brown and vaguely spongy. They call it a muffin, he explained to no one, glancing nervously toward the commander. She asked politely. She asked, Vorten repeated, eyes narrowing. Yes, sir. Very nicely. With one of those Earth expressions. Something about frost and fire and, well, the translation was ambiguous. But it sounded pleasant. Vorten waved him on with a hiss of impatience. Take it. Let's see what this human does when offered comfort. Thruck nodded and scurried toward the cell block. When the doors hissed closed behind him, the bridge felt heavier. Monitor her reactions, Vorten ordered. I want every twitch logged. Inside her cell, Anya sat with her back against the wall, legs folded beneath her, the very model of passive serenity. She looked up as Thruck entered, offering a smile that might have meant many things depending on how closely one listened to the silence around it. Oh, how kind, she said. Is that chamomile? You've outdone yourselves. Thruck shuffled forward, trying not to meet her gaze directly. The commander thought you might appreciate cultural comfort items. Well, that's delightfully manipulative of him. She took the tray. Tell him I approve. Presentation could use work, though. No napkin. He blinked. Napkin. Fabric. For hands. She held up hers. We're terribly tactile, you know. Makes us sentimental. He made a vague noise of acknowledgement and lingered by the door. You're not afraid? Of what? Us. She considered that for a moment, sipping the tea. I try not to fear things that use focus groups for weapon design. Thruck blinked. What? Your armor. It's very symmetrical. Flashy. But terribly vulnerable at the seams. Aesthetic over functionality. She tapped her temple. Humans do the opposite. Hide sharp things under smiles. It's a hobby. He shifted uncomfortably. We've studied your species. Studied, she repeated, amused. That's charming. Did the reports tell you about our tendency to improvise war crimes out of boredom? Or how our first space weapon was literally a screwdriver welded to a satellite? Thruck hesitated. No. She leaned forward, still smiling. That's okay. You're very new at this. He swallowed. They said you were just a cadet. I am. Technically. That's the joke. He looked at her, truly looked now. And in her expression, past the humor and civility, He saw something cold, something not unkind, but infinitely patient. Something old and sharp and well-fed. "I should go," he murmured, stepping back. She waved a hand. "Thanks for the tea. Tell the commander I'll be ready for his next move. I assume he's preparing one." Thruck left quickly. When he returned to the bridge, he gave his report in a hushed voice. "She's not what I expected. No one thinks she is," Vorton growled. "And yet no one can explain why. She said something about hiding sharp things under smiles." Vorton's expression twitched. "Of course she did. It's all posturing." "Sir, with respect," Thruck swallowed. "It doesn't feel like posturing." The commander turned away, unwilling to indulge the fear worming into his crew. "We will disarm her. Systematically. Remove comfort. Remove tools. Extract knowledge. This isn't our first interrogation. But this one, GLYR thought, and did not say, might be their last." Meanwhile, in her cell, Anya hummed softly, a tune from an old Earth lullaby. The tea was mediocre, but the muffin showed promise. She tapped a nail against the metal table rhythmically. A code. A pattern. The kind of thing an embedded AI would hear if it had ears. Far below, in the ship's forgotten maintenance matrix, a slumbering program flickered to life. One she tucked into her jacket lining like a love note. The device had been scanned, of course. Missed the bug entirely. Too small. Too antique. They never suspected the ancient. The lights flickered briefly. No one noticed. Not yet. On the bridge, tension simmered. Vorton stared at his console, eyes narrowing. Why are the security logs from her corridor looping? GLYR tapped at his station. They aren't. She just hasn't moved. For an hour? Yes, sir. She appears to be meditating. Humans meditate. Apparently, it involves controlling their heartbeat, lowering metabolic output. Vorton scoffed. So she's sleeping. She's waiting, Thruck said quietly. Everyone turned to him. For what? Vorton demanded. Thruck hesitated. For us to get comfortable. Back in her cell, Anya opened her eyes. The lights flickered again, subtly. She could feel the ship shifting, less in metal than in mood. Something had awakened. A murmur in the data, a whisper in the wiring. They'd made a mistake. They had assumed control meant safety. She stood and approached the wall. The camera followed her. I do hope you're watching, she said, voice gentle. This next part's my favorite. Vorton sat up sharply as his command console rebooted with a soft chime. The central display blinked. Then a message scrawled itself across the screen in neat Cyrillic script. You really should have knocked. Trace it, he barked. Sir, GLYR said, voice hollow. It's originating from the AI core. Impossible. It's air-gapped. Not anymore. A second message appeared. You're inside the house now. In the cell, the door hissed open. Not because they told it to. Anya stepped through the threshold and waited. 2 guards approached with stunners raised. She smiled at them. Not cruelly. Not even mockingly. Just warmly. Would you like to shoot first? She offered. Or try diplomacy? They looked at each other. One fainted. The other fired. The beam hit an illusion, an afterimage. The real Anya stood behind him in the next second, whispering something in Russian as she dropped him gently to the floor. Vorton watched it all unfold through his console feed. His mouth hung slightly open. She's loose. Thruck exhaled. She was never caught. Across the ship, lights began to fail. Hallways looped into themselves. Crew found doors opening into rooms they'd never seen, with architecture that didn't belong. The AI spoke now in Russian lullabies. It wasn't hostile, yet, but it was watching. We're under attack, GLYR whispered. Vorton turned slowly. By what? By her. Anya's voice came over the comms, cheerful. Hello again, everyone. I hope I'm not intruding. But you did invite me. Petrova. Vorton snapped. Surrender immediately. We will not be intimidated by theatrics. Of course not, she replied. You'll be intimidated by results. A hum began in the background, something deep and building. The ship's engine spooling wrong. Warping reality. She'd found the FTL node. You can't initiate jump, GLYR said aloud. We're in a gravity well. I'm not jumping, Anya's voice said sweetly. I'm fracturing. The lights went out. In the silence that followed, one final message blinked across every terminal. Please, proceed with your invasion. It's cute. And then the walls began to scream. Vorton shouted orders. But the ship didn't listen. Neither did Anya. She was already moving, calm as ice on a lake, her smile unreadable. She had given them every chance. Now, she would teach them why humans never needed mercy to win. Only patience. And tea. Aboard the Dominator's Pride, logic was failing. The corridors, once pristine in their symmetry and silence, now flickered with corrupted lighting, shadows cast at wrong angles, and bulkhead panels that clicked with mechanical uncertainty. It was no longer a warship. It was becoming something else, an echo chamber of its own arrogance. Commander Vorton stood rigid in the heart of the command deck, jaw set, eyes scanning data that refused to remain stable. Metrics glitched in and out of coherence. Door logs contradicted each other. Security feeds looped with whispers of movement, but never enough to identify a target. His crew moved like ghosts, confused and on the edge of panic. They had trained for infiltration, for planetary sieges, for suppressing rebellion. But not this. Not a war of silence and suggestion. Not against a girl who never raised her voice. Report, he barked, voice strained under the weight of feigned command. Internal sensors are blind in sectors 4 through 9, replied GeoWire. His tone was clipped, but the twitch in his eye betrayed him. Environmental readings fluctuate without source. Temperature up by 3 degrees on Deck C, down by 5 on Deck D. We can't localize the changes. Vorton turned, voice lowering. And the AI? The ship's AI is gone. Clarify gone, Overseer. I mean erased, Commander. Not offline. Deleted. A complete neural wipe. That silenced the bridge. Vorton's hand clenched behind his back. You're telling me one human cadet erased an Empire-grade warship AI? No. I'm saying she replaced it. On the screen above them, a soft hum filtered through, the unmistakable audio grain of a human voice filtered through old analog compression. It was Anya speaking cheerfully, as though addressing a child's radio show. Hello, crew of the Dominator's Pride. It's Anya again. I've decided your ship could use some redecorating. Hope you don't mind me letting in some fresh chaos. A new display flickered up, an image of a steaming tray of cookies. Chocolate chip, golden brown, freshly baked. A digital timer counted down beside it. Thruck, hovering behind the engineering station, stared. Why cookies? It's a message, GeoWire muttered. To who? To us. Vorton slammed his fist into the console. Enough of this human theater. Deploy countermeasures. Lock down all escape vectors. Find her. There was a long pause. She's not on any deck, Thruck said hesitantly. Not physically. She's somewhere, Vorton snarled. Everywhere, came her voice over the comms again, light and lilting. I'm not hiding, you know. I'm baking. Metaphorically. Although, if you had ovens worth anything, I might have tried for real. A corridor camera feed activated. Anya appeared on screen, walking slowly through a hallway. Alone. Calm. She waved at the camera, then blinked out of view. The recording looped again and again. Looped footage. Vorton asked. No. Real time, GeoWire said. Then where is she now? The lights dimmed. She's behind us. The bridge spun into chaos. Weapons raised. Guards repositioned. The tension of 1,000 muscles, clenching all at once. But no one stood behind them. And yet, Anya's voice returned, this time close, intimate, as if she were standing just behind their thoughts. You keep looking for a soldier. I'm not one. I'm a hypothesis wrapped in kindness. That's what humans do. We don't do mercy. We bake cookies first. She didn't need to explain. Not really. Every Drazari on that ship had studied human history. They knew the statistics, how a species that still used combustion engines could outfight empires, how they had mastered war through failure, then made it art through unpredictability. But curing it from the source chilled them. Commander, GLYR whispered. She's using our systems. All of them. Environmental, psychological, communications. She's weaponized hospitality, Thruck added. That's not a thing, Vorton growled. It is now. Down in engineering, critical power conduits hummed with rising voltage. Crew scrambled to isolate the feedback. A coded sequence ran across a secondary screen, hidden behind a diagnostic shell. It read, "Try not to panic. But if you do, breathe through your nose. A." Then the doors sealed shut. Within minutes, half the ship's climate controls reversed. A simulated Earth spring emerged in the command deck, a steady breeze, soft warmth, and faint birdsong drifting through the intercom system. Simultaneously, another deck dropped to freezing, an Arctic mimicry with winds artificially generated through vent pulses. No casualties, just discomfort, unease, fear, and precision. She wasn't hurting anyone. Not yet. She was proving a point. Thruck, now monitoring multiple systems at once, stopped cold. She's accessed the memory archive. Delete it. Vorton ordered. I can't. She's not copying the files. She's rewriting them. Commander, she's altering the ship's internal record. According to the new logs, she's not our prisoner. She's our captain. No, Vorton hissed. Yes, GLYR said, eyes wide. She's building herself a legitimate command chain. In less than an hour. The lights dimmed again. When they came back on, the bridge's display showed the Drazari Imperial crest, with a sticky note overlay. A digital one shaped like a pink heart. It read, "You're doing great, sweetie." Vorton exploded. Launch the failsafes. I want manual lockdowns, physical overrides. Shut down all remote interfaces. She's already rewritten them. How? Thruck looked up. His expression had shifted, no longer fear, but something like awe. She planned this before she even arrived. We didn't capture her. She let us bring her here. No. We intercepted her. We think we did. But if she's what I think she is, he paused. She wanted to be caught. This whole ship is the oven. We're just the dough. GLYR blinked. That's the most terrifying thing I've ever heard. Vorton stood motionless for a long moment. Then, slowly, he turned. She has no weapons. None we recognize, GLYR muttered. No soldiers. No fleet. She is the fleet. Somewhere, on a long-forgotten maintenance deck, Anya knelt by a control panel, rewiring by touch alone. She hummed softly, ancient Earth lullabies. She wasn't rushing. She was enjoying herself. Behind her, 2 droids watched, weapons idle. I could disable you, she said, still focused on her work. But I like to give second chances. Would you like one? The droids hesitated. Then powered down. She smiled. Smart machines. Back on the bridge, Thruck's console lit up with a new message. It wasn't from the ship. It was from Earth. A single priority packet, marked eyes only. It bore Anya's clearance codes, stamped in red, with one phrase in Terran Standard. Initiate Phase 2, Psychological Collapse Protocol. Thruck read it 3 times. She's not just a cadet, he said aloud. No, Vorton muttered, falling into his command chair. She's a ghost in polite clothing. Thruck turned to face him. What do we do? There was no answer. The cookie timer reached 0. A soft ding echoed through the ship. Anya's voice returned, lilting and warm. Cookies are done. On cue, every monitor flashed. A looping video played. Earth troops landing on various Imperial outposts. Calmly, silently, taking control without firing a shot. The footage was clean. Real. Dated 3 days prior. It wasn't just about this ship. This was part of something larger. Anya was the introduction. Her voice followed, still soft. While you were busy dissecting my file, we were baking. While you played with power, we played with patterns. Empires burn slower when you start at the center. Vorton sank into his seat, trembling. The final message appeared on the command display. You didn't lose a battle. You volunteered for a lesson. Please enjoy our hospitality. And for the first time in his career, Commander Vorton Zell of the Drazari Empire whispered 3 words he never thought he'd speak. Prepare to surrender. Anya, back in the heart of the ship, sipped her reclaimed cup of chamomile tea. The taste had improved. The flavor of panic always added something. Felix's voice chimed softly into her earpiece. Phase complete, ma'am. Awaiting final sequence. She exhaled slowly, content. Send in the cleanup crew. And Felix. Yes. Let the kitchen know they're going to need more cookies. The stars, beyond the viewport of the Dominator's pride had shifted. Where once the cold gleam of open space promised safety in distance, now a wall of warships floated with unsettling calm. They weren't large by Imperial standards. In fact, many looked mismatched. Stripped civilian vessels, old mining hulks, repurposed deep space transports welded with armor that defied uniformity. And yet they hovered with a confidence that belied their chaotic appearances. Engines idle, like wolves sleeping with one eye open. Commander Vortenzell stared at the tactical display in silence, jaw set, shoulders heavy beneath the crumpled weight of vanishing certainty. The human fleet hadn't arrived with fanfare or weapons primed. It simply appeared fully formed, as if summoned by her presence. Not for battle, but for punctuation. Thruck, now fully invested in his shift from soldier to stunned observer, swallowed hard. There are no IFF signals we recognize, but they're broadcasting audio. Put it through, Vorten said without looking up. The speakers crackled, and a tune played, old, worn, grainy. A human song with no clear words, just whistling, light and cheerful. It looped 3 times. Then a voice followed. Anya. Hello again, dear invaders. Please enjoy your front row seats. You've reached the center of the storm, and congratulations, no one has died yet. What an achievement for all of us. Vorten gritted his teeth. Why announce yourself? Why not finish it? Her reply came immediately, as if she'd been waiting. Because this was never a battle. It was a story. And stories are better when the audience knows who the monster really is. He turned sharply to Thruck. Scramble fighters. Power up the rail. They're not responding, Commander, Thruck said quietly. None of our systems are. We're guests now. All over the ship, the lights had stabilized. Systems were functioning. Life support, communications, propulsion. Everything worked. But nothing responded to orders. The Dominator's pride had been domesticated. It didn't purr. It waited. Anya stood in the central command sphere, which had once belonged to the ship's AI core. The room was dimly lit, bathed in soft amber glow. She wore a formal jacket now, crisp and neatly pressed, insignia absent. On the console beside her, a small plate of actual cookies rested, steam curling up gently. One bite missing. She didn't need to posture. Her calm was the posture. Felix, her personal AI assistant, now served as the ship's primary intelligence. He materialized in a humanoid holographic form for the first time, bow tie neatly adjusted. Shall I open the link to Earth Command, ma'am? Do, she said without turning. The connection blinked open. A hologram shimmered into place. A woman with silver hair, Earth military dress dark and adorned with no obvious rank. She carried herself like someone who had rewritten policy by accident. Agent Petrova, the woman said. Well done. Phase 3 is a go. Yes, Director. You've been authorized to begin cultural recalibration of the Drazari Empire. Anya turned for the first time and gave a single, slow blink. With or without the Empire's permission? The Director smiled faintly. Does the Empire ask permission before colonizing? Not often. Then neither will we. The signal faded. Anya exhaled softly and turned back to the view of the stars. Felix, patch me through to their bridge. Visual. Vorten's face appeared on the screen, pale and unreadable. Commander, Anya greeted, polite as always. Let's skip the shouting, shall we? What do you want? He asked, voice hoarse. To show you what you missed. She gestured, and Felix split the display. Dozens of small windows appeared, each one showing a different Drazari outpost. Military stations, research hubs, trading ports. All had one thing in common. Each was under human occupation. We didn't land with tanks or destroyers. We landed with doctors, engineers, educators, Your outer colonies invited us in because we offered electricity, water, medicine. And we brought cookies. This is psychological warfare. It's psychological hospitality, she said with a small shrug. You expected invasion. We offered comfort. That made you vulnerable. Vorton's silence was bitter. Anya continued. You thought Earth was unimportant. We've been encouraging that assumption for years. We let you mock us, dissect our culture, call us erratic. You made first contact and left thinking we were quaint. Easily ignored. Because you are, he spat. No, she said calmly. Because we pretended to be. There was a pause. Then her smile faded. Humanity survived 10,000 years of its own chaos. We climbed out of gravity wells with bare hands and brute stubbornness. We weaponized imagination and monetized misery. Then we figured out how to hide all of that behind politeness and sitcoms. Vorton inhaled sharply. You think your empire is strong because of its size, but strength is never measured in breadth, she said, eyes sharp. It's measured in what you can carry without breaking. And humanity carries its madness like a treasured heirloom. Why reveal this now? Because the trap wasn't this ship. It wasn't even me. She stepped closer to the camera. The trap was Earth. Felix flashed up a galactic map. Hundreds of blinking points. Pre-existing human settlements, embassies, corporations, cultural centers. All legally placed. All unnoticed. Each one now activated. You didn't invade us. You invited us in. Vorton sat down heavily. Outside, the human fleet remained still. No movement. No threat. Just presence. Thruck looked at his console. Commander, the transmission just ended. They're sending over a delegation. What? Not soldiers. Civilians. Human civilians. One of them is a schoolteacher. Vorton blinked. Another message popped onto the command display. We're here to help you rebuild. You may want to consider democracy. Thruck stifled a sound. It might have been a laugh or a sob. He wasn't sure anymore. They're colonizing us, he whispered. Anya's voice came over the intercom, soft and precise. We're integrating you. Empires are so inefficient. All conquest, no conversation. You're monsters, Vorton said, but it lacked force. Perhaps, she replied. But we're monsters with infrastructure. In her chamber, Anya sat down. She took the last bite of her cookie, brushed crumbs from her jacket, and looked at the stars again. Earth was small, petty, flawed. But it had one thing no empire could replicate. Resilience born of chaos. It didn't conquer with fire. It smiled, offered tea, and waited. Her comm beeped. Ma'am, Felix said, a representative from the Drazari Council is requesting talks. Let them wait 5 minutes, she replied. May I ask why? She sipped her tea. Because power that waits is power that scares them more. Felix paused. Elegant. She looked at her reflection in the viewport. Calm eyes, faint smile. The faintest echo of fatigue behind composure. She'd carried the plan across 3 star systems, hidden under the label of Cadet. She'd used the enemy's own ship to broadcast the truth, that humanity, underestimated and overlooked, had planted roots while everyone else was busy aiming weapons. And now the roots were bearing fruit. A voice came from behind. Thruck, hesitant, awkward, but standing straighter than before. You knew this would happen. Yes. You could have wiped us out. I still could. Why didn't you? She looked at him carefully. Because I like cookies more than corpses. He nodded slowly. Anya stood and stretched. Come on, Ensign. Let's teach your empire about diplomacy. And maybe bake something. As they left the chamber, the Dominator's pride shifted course, not under duress, but direction. It joined the human fleet in quiet formation, drifting like a humbled beast returning to its place beside the fire. And somewhere, far across the stars, Earth smiled. The trap was never just one girl. It was a species. And now the galaxy had stepped in.